Hello again. We're going to talk about the plants of Jepson Prairie now. I'm going to introduce plants by genus and common name, moving from the uplands down into the center of the vernal pool, moving through those successive rings, like a transect. First, we're here at the top of the Mima Mounds, where we find the most invasive species. This right here is a non-native grass, wild oats is the common name. The genus is Avena. And this is considered naturalized in California. It has these distinctive awns at the top that blow in the wind, and this forms a lot of the grassland here in California now. This grass here of shorter stature is ripgut brome. That's the common name, and the genus is Bromus. It's also considered naturalized or highly invasive, whichever you prefer. This here is a non-native meadow barley. It's also considered naturalized. Put stickers in your shoe or up your dog's nose. And the genus name for that is Hordeum. This here is a forb. This is Tragopogon. That's the common name, genus name. And it's in family Asteraceae. It has these distinctive leaf-like features behind the flower. A pretty large flower. It's the first one I've seen at Jepson Prairie. This here is a native, this purple flower. The genus name is Dicalostoma, and the common name is Blue Dix, which is rather unfortunate, but that's what we have to work with. Moving over here, which we find actually in large clumps in parts of Jepson Prairie, is yarrow. This is also family Asteraceae. The genus name is Achillea. It's actually related to chamomile. So now we're going to be looking at bunch grass. I'm not a grass person. I can't identify this specific bunch grass, but it's native, and these bunch grasses will stay greener much longer than the annual non-native grasses because of a high root-to-shoot ratio, which means most of their biomass is underground. Now we're going to move on to another native forb. This is California golden violet. Very neat little flower here at the base layer in the uplands. It has apparently the largest petal size of the native violets in the state. It has a bilabiate inflorescence, which means two-lipped. Moving on, we're here at what I would consider a transition species. This here is Triphoceria, butter and eggs, here in the foreground. This little purple flower with the purple plant with the yellow flowers. It is actually semi-parasitic, which means that it pulls some water and nutrients from the roots of other plants. This here is, the common name is blowwives, another unfortunate name. And the genus name for that is a Chiricina, and that is also in family Asteraceae. It has a composite flower. Here is the seed head for blowwives. This is what it looks like when it actually goes to set seed, very similar to a dandelion. This is not the flower, it's the seeds. Okay, moving on, we're looking here at Lupinus bicolor. This is miniature lupin. Very tiny inflorescences for lupin. Most lupin you'll see are going to have much larger inflorescences, up to 1 foot long. These inflorescences are very small. They're about 1 inch long. The flowers are purple to violet in color, and it has these distinctive palmate leaves, palmately compound leaves. It's in family Fabaceae, which means it's nitrogen fixing. It pulls nitrogen from the atmosphere and converts it into a form that life can use. Has nitrogen-fixing nodules on the roots. That is all a family Fabaceae. Speaking of Fabaceae, we have a non-native member of the family here. This is highly invasive. It's called winter vetch. The genus name is Vichia. You'll find this in both the vernal pool and the uplands, primarily in the uplands. Now moving on to a very distinctive native vernal pool species. This is more towards the fringe and center of vernal pools. This is yellow carpet. The genus name is Blenosperma. It forms these dense stands, hence the name yellow carpet. Here is goldfields. Most of what you see in this picture is goldfields, so you get the reference. And here I'm going to show you just how tiny these flowers actually are. They're about a centimeter across, in some cases smaller. And they are family Asteraceae, so again, many, many flowers. Here I'm pointing to a tiny little flower. These are actually small juvenile versions of Navarretia. I'll point some of those out later. This is another non-native species you'll find in the uplands and in the vernal pool, primarily in the uplands, and that is Erodium. It's in the geranium family. Here I'm going to point out a very neat, tiny little prostrate growing flower. This is dwarf woolly marbles. And that goes by the genus name Xylocarphus, with a silent P at the beginning. Very small flowers, about a half a centimeter across or less. Here's another distinctive vernal pool flower that likes the center of the vernal pools where it's very wet. It's not a good competitor, so you'll find it in areas where there's much less plant cover. Very tiny flowers, perhaps 1/10 of a centimeter across to 1/4 of a centimeter across. Prostrate growing, which means it hugs the ground. And here's another taller, more mature version of that Navarretia I was pointing out earlier, so you get an idea of its growth habit. I'm also going to show you here a collection of individuals of Downingia, fringed Downingia, which is in the center of the vernal pool. Likes it where it's very wet. It's one of the last species to bloom, and in other vernal pool areas it can form dense stands. So the entire bottom of the vernal pool is carpeted in purple. At Jepson Prairie, you rarely see this. Here is fringed Downingia up close, and that genus name is actually Downingia. You know it's fringed Downingia because it has very tiny upper lips. So it's bilabiate, that upper and lower lips. Those two upper petals are very narrow on fringed Downingia compared to the other Downingia species at Jepson Prairie. That concludes our mini transect at Jepson Prairie from the uplands down to the center of a vernal pool.